City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regular council meeting, January 17th, 2017. Can we have a moment of silence? Comments from the public.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Keller, and I'm with the North Kansas City Business Council. And if any of you saw the Fox 4 News this morning, you'll know that the Business Council and the Parks and Rec set a bomb off here in North Kansas City. We did a scarf bomb of Dag Park, and a scarf bomb is essentially when handmade and new scarves, hats, and gloves are put out in a public place for anyone who needs them in the moment to take and help them get through the winter a little bit better. It's available to people in need, homeless people, students who have forgotten their gloves, hats, and coats, and not coats, gloves, hats, and scarves. And all they have to do is walk up and take whatever they need. Dag Park was chosen specifically for its central high-traffic location and its proximity to the school. These events have been occurring all over the country, and they're spreading worldwide, as a matter of fact. And so I called Kelly over at Parks and Rec and said, hey, this would be a great thing for us to do. Nothing's happening in Kansas City area in general. She made, I think, 2 phone calls, and we had 40-plus scarves the next day. I emailed a couple of friends, and we had 30-plus hats. So altogether, we had about 87 items out there this morning. We got some great publicity on the morning, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and the noon broadcast. And so we're hoping there's nothing left on the fences, and next year we're hoping for even more items and to go all the way around Dag Park. So if you see anyone and anyone asks you what that is, that's what that is.
That's terrific.
What's that say on that piece of paper that's on?
What the piece of paper says that I am not lost. Please feel free to take me if you need me, and feel the warmth in North Kansas City. So, yeah, and a huge thank you to Kelly and her team for coming out so early this morning and helping with this. So,
Great.
Excellent. Very cool.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Glenn Stinson. I know a few of you up here. I'm a business owner in North Kansas City. In the past, I've owned Northtown Travel, Northtown Collision Center, Northside Plumbing. Currently own Ideal Line Marketing and Products here in North Kansas City, and also Calibration Brewery and Northtown Auto Sales. I also have other businesses in Kansas City, Missouri, and in Platte County. My experience in operating a business is maybe a little different than some of you sitting here or standing here. But I've always been known to operate under a license. In each of those localities or cities, I've always purchased a occupational license or a business license, whatever is required in order to operate in that facility that I was operating out of. In 2015, I ceased doing business with a company called Northside Plumbing here in North Kansas City in order to establish Calibration Brewery. So therefore, I did not renew my 2016 business license. I think it was, let's see if I can read the date on this ticket. I received a summons from an officer, Hostica, and also a lady that worked for the finance manager. Her name on here is Sue Renier, and they issued me a summons for not renewing my 2016 plumbing license. I've never heard of such a thing. I usually was under the assumption that if you didn't renew your license, you didn't do business. You weren't allowed to do business in that particular locale. I think that's the way it should be. I never heard of, and I've tried to inquire as to whether there is an ordinance, a city ordinance, in order for someone like me that has ceased doing business in the city under a particular business name, whether there's a requirement for them to come to the city and notify that you're no longer doing business in that locale. I received 2 summons. I can't read one of them very well, but I'll read one of them that says delinquent and expired business license. Okay, I didn't do business in 2016. License, comma, license tax, plus reports, prerequisite, doing business as, etc. That's a summons, a ticket. For what? I don't understand it.
Can we have, yes,
Well, yes, Mr. Mayor, this, as Mr. Simpson says, he has received a summons, and I believe it's now in the court system. I'd ask the city councilor to talk about whether this is a matter that's really before the council at this point. Tom, could you?
Well, sir, what I'm trying to ask the council, if it is a city ordinance, is it a necessary city ordinance?
I tell you, let us take a look at it and find out what's going on here.
The only reason I had, and I'm a little upset, obviously, they came in as my place of business at the brewery, a police officer and the lady from the finance department, and it was very weird, unorthodox, you know. And I said, "What's this about?" And they were not explicit as, and I said, "Is there an ordinance?" And they weren't able to tell me that there was an ordinance. The officer didn't know whether there was an ordinance. Apparently, the city doesn't know there's an ordinance. The council might not know
Let
either.
us look into this and we'll
So
find
my
it.
request is, if there isn't an ordinance, sure, the ticket doesn't mean anything. That means, but if there is it necessary for there to be an ordinance, or can a place of business just not renew and not receive a ticket for not renewing? I've done business in all these other locales I've talked to you about. Never have I heard of someone receiving a summons to appear in court for not renewing a license. That was my concern.
We'll get to the bottom of it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Consent agenda?
I move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 16? No, wait a
15,
minute.
determination of name for new building in Mackin Park.
Mr. Mayor? Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of council, at your next meeting, February 7th, you're scheduled to award a contract, construction contract for the new building that will be constructed in Mackin Park, that will serve as the location for Parks and Recreation, also an event space. So we've talked about it a number of times, and a number of different opinions have been expressed about what that building should be called, but we've never actually come to a consensus, and it now is getting to the point when signs and other things on the building would label the building where we do need to decide what we'd like to call that building that will be in Mackin Park. Some of the names, not necessarily exclusive, that have been suggested to date include a Parks and Recreation Center, which the Parks and Recreation Board recently had a meeting and has indicated is its preference to you. Recreation Center, a Civic Center, a Community Center. Also, Charles Cash called me today, said that he had heard from a resident who had suggested a couple of other names, and he asked me to mention them to you, so I will. They are Mackin Park Event Center, the Center at Mackin Park, There are obviously other possibilities as well. But at this point, staff would ask for some formal direction as to what you would like to call that building that you'll soon be awarding a construction contract for.
It would seem to me that since the Parks and Recreation Board's preference is the Parks and Recreation Center, and that's not a strange or unusual or outlandish or weird type of name, and that's what they would like to have, that's what they wanted and agreed upon, my thought would be that's what they should be calling themselves.
I got one thing about this. Actually, the city doesn't have a civic center anymore. The YMCA has taken all of that, and we don't have it. So therefore, my feeling is that the citizens of North Kansas City are paying for this building. As far as I know, the park department is not putting a dime into this building. My feeling is that the citizens have the right to know that this building is theirs. It doesn't belong to the park board. So I'd kind of like to go with something like, I kind of like the Mackin thing or something, but that's my opinion. Zach?
At first, when we were looking into this, I wanted to name it the Clevenger Center, but no dice there. We're building the building for the Parks and Rec. I kind of tend to agree with Bill on it. My fear is if we name it a community center, it's going to still have some confusion with the old community center, which is now the YMCA. I understand your point. I mean, the Mackin isn't bad either, but, it's for the Parks and Rec where it could handle other activities. I'm kind of leaned with Bill on the Parks and Recreation Center, North Kansas City.
Anybody else?
Is that me? Couldn't tell if he wanted.
Oh, I'm just fiddling with
Okay. Well, at this point, I agree with Councilmember Sanders, but I'm open, I guess, to other ideas. My concern with calling it the community center is that the old community center is managed by the YMCA, but they do not own it. So at any point in time, let's say 5 years from now, we end our operating agreement with the YMCA, and we decide as a city that we want to get back into the gym and recreation center, whatever you want to call it, business. And so now we need to name that center. Well, of course, it's not going to be called the YMCA anymore because they're managing it for us and they've kicked them out. And this is not to be, I'm not proposing that this happen, but then I would say that at that point, we would go back to the name of the North Kansas City Community Center. So if we take that name for this other building, the Parks and Rec building, then we have to find a new name for the community center. So my thought is save that building's name. And I've thought a lot about this because this is obviously a controversial topic over the last couple months. My thought is save the name of the community center associated with the Y and then choose a different name, whatever we decide on, for that new Parks and Rec building.
I agree with you, Donna. I mean, the city's building it for the citizens. I like the center at Mackin Park the best. I mean, it's a very general name. It doesn't specify one or the other, but everybody will know what it is.
Rick?
It's a park and recreation building. If we build it, the citizens know we own it. I mean, we call the fire department, the people know we own it. I don't understand that the citizens all know who owns that building. It's the city. And it is a park and recreation building that can house civic events. I'm all for the multiple uses, but the name of it, you put the civic center up there and everybody's going to be calling, where's your parks building at? Well, it's in the civic building. I mean, to me, it doesn't make any sense not to name it Park and Recreation Building.
I think Parks and Recreation Parks and Recreation Center, not building. The way I read this, anyway, that's the way it says it. Parks and Recreation Center, that's a acceptable name, I would think. My preference, though, is Parks and Recreation Center at the Don Stilo building. I'm serious.
Okay, I like the North Kansas City Parks and Recreation Center. I think that'd be a beautiful name. In order to come to a happy medium, maybe we could do North Kansas City Recreation Center. And then I have to speak for one of my constituents who contacted me that wanted us to call it the Community Center. That's all.
Anybody else? Should we vote on it, or what happens?
I would ask the council to vote at this point. And-
Parks and Recreation Center.
Ditto.
With North Kansas City in front of it,
Yes,
correct?
North Kansas City.
So could I ask for a motion and a second on a particular name?
I move that we call it the Parks and Recreation Center, and not necessarily North, because we know it's North Kansas City. It's here in North Kansas City. It's not gonna be the Clay Como.
People don't always know that we are North Kansas City.
Well, that's true, but I would leave my motion the same, Parks and Recreation Center.
I'd like to amend that to say the North Kansas City Parks and Recreation Center. I still think some people don't know. Everybody thinks something north of the river is North Kansas City, so,
I can live with that. You can amend the motion if you want.
I mean, that'd be my opinion.
So my understanding of what's before you is the name North Kansas City Parks and Recreation Center?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a motion is second.
Do we have any other, Anita?
No, I would say yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will.
But I think, my understanding is that Mr. Sanders made the motion, that Mr. Clevenger suggested an amended motion, which Mr. Sanders accepted, and that was North Kansas City Parks and Recreation Center, and that is what the council voted on.
Did we just vote?
I believe you did.
Somebody should second. We shouldn't somebody.
So my understanding was that Mr. Sanders made the motion, Mr. Clevenger made the second.
Sure.
And did you get the vote, City Clerk?
Call the
So
roll.
would you mind, if you wouldn't mind
Call the
voting?
roll.
Call the roll.
And this is for the North Kansas City Parks and Recreation Center. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Abstain.
Yes.
Let's take care of that. Okay. Number 16.
Budget amendment, police body cameras, resolution number 17-005.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the police chief, Steve Beamer.
Thank you, sir. I regret that we have to come to you tonight for a budget amendment. That is something that I try to avoid, and we try to build our budget appropriately where we don't have to do this. But regrettably, tonight, we need to have a conversation with you about the body cam funding. If you recall correctly, we started in 2014 when we started looking at body cams, and we put money in the budget during that 14-15 fiscal year. And we put $27,000 in at that time. Then events happened that caused us to take a step back and reconsider some of the legislation that was in place in the state of Missouri and how body cams could be implemented effectively in that post-Ferguson world. We continued to stay on the sidelines with this issue up until just recently, and we kept moving the $27,000 forward in every budget. Well, we've now reached the point where the state of Missouri has effective legislation in place to control access, public access to police video. And we've also found a product that integrates in with our current in-car camera system in terms of syncing the video and having one video management system and eliminating the need for two microphones, one for the in-car camera system and one for the body mic. And that's the WatchGuard system, and that's what we're proposing that we acquire tonight. Major Kevin Freeman is here. He has become our subject matter expert on this issue. But to acquire the appropriate number of body cams so that all the officers on the streets can have one, as well as a couple available for our detectives, along with the back-end equipment, the charging stations, the equipment that needs to be mounted in the vehicles to sync up with the in-car camera system, everything else. It's a total of $46,355, and so we're short $19,355 on this purchase. That's what this budget amendment is for. I'm sorry, but that's what happened to get us to this point, and we're asking for your consideration to move forward on this. If you've got any questions about the equipment, Major Freeman can answer those.
You know, we're living on the cutting edge of this situation about body cameras. It's not going to go away. It's going to get stronger and stronger, I feel, nationally. I think that Northtown would be well advised to stay on top of this situation and do what we can to make sure that we're covered and that everything is going smoothly with the body cameras. So I would be in approval of that if it comes to the vote.
Do you see that this stuff will stay up, you know, a year from now? Is it still gonna be, the best there is, or?
Technology is always evolving, but the fact that we've got a system here that will sync into our in-car camera systems, that's big for us. It's big in 2 or 3 different ways. Kevin, if I misspeak on this, please let me know. But if you activate the in-car camera system by turning on the light bar, it will activate the body cam that the officer is wearing. If one officer on the scene activates their body cam, other body cams will activate. They won't do that? Okay. But if you turn on it syncs up to the in-car camera, so if an officer is preparing to make a traffic stop, so he turns on the light bar, the body cam comes on at that time. I think this is the best technology that's available for us right now. 2 years from now, who knows where we'll be. I don't anticipate that we're going to be coming back to you, though, in 2 years asking to replace these. We're purchasing, a big piece of the cost overrun is a bumper-to-bumper warranty on these body cam units for 3 years. If one falls off and gets damaged, if a car runs over one, whatever, free replacement, 3 years.
Do you currently have a body cam system going?
No.
And have you tried this body cam? Have you, tried it out yet?
WatchGuard currently has a product that we have tested and evaluated. It's their Vista. This is a Vista Wi-Fi, which makes that connection to the car and then mirrors everything up on the back end in the software. So, yes, we have touched and we felt it, and we are comfortable with its ability for it to sustain the rugged nature of police work.
And where does the officer wear it?
Typically, they would wear it mid-chest, mid-torso area, but it has several different mounting options.
And then, did I hear you say Wi-Fi?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you're chasing somebody and you're chasing them for 3 miles. Are you going to lose that video after a certain distance?
The Wi-Fi allows the body cam and the in-car camera to turn on together, basically. So if I'm within range of the Wi-Fi network and I activate my body cam, I will activate my in-car camera at the same time. Vice versa, as soon as I activate my in-car camera, my body cam will activate. But if I'm on a 3-mile chase, which some of us could do, but I would have simultaneous recording on the body cam, and then when I get back into network, basically, it would bring it back together.
Okay, so the body cam's going to work whether you're close to your vehicle or not.
Correct.
Okay. And then
And it'll work independently also. So we
Right.
would have officers, like the chief said, the detectives could wear them, and they could be on an investigation in South Kansas City, and they would still work fine, because all the recordings are in-house and stored locally, basically, and then when they dock them, then it pushes it to the server.
Well, if there are 2 policemen show up on the same thing, and one turns on his light bar and the other one doesn't, does that activate both body cameras? Or?
No, it does not. The theory would be that if 2 officers were on the scene, where lights are activated, both would have their lights activated, both body cams would be activated, and then back-end software would bring all of that event together through GPS and time stamping.
Do the cars themselves have a Wi-Fi hotspot?
Nope.
No, okay. And then this budget amendment, it would take the money from the police chief's salary and put it into the, oh no, gaming fund, right? Okay, gaming fund. We'll leave Beamer's salary alone. Thank you.
Anita?
Oh, I'm just curious. I've watched cops. Do those cops wear the bodysuit camera? And have we seen that before?
Well, I don't know, I'm assuming cops is still filming today. I don't know if it's still in production, but this technology is roughly 3 to 5 years old. So anything older than that, it probably didn't exist. We've had some real simplistic technology that we've used in the past for the detectives. They were just real small, cheap, almost throwaway type cameras. So the technology has been there, but the events of Ferguson and anything beyond that has pushed the envelope in this technology, and a lot more vendors have come to market, and products are a wide spectrum from real low quality to real high quality.
In your research that you've done, I'm sure you've talked to other municipalities, other police stations that have this, I'm assuming.
This particular technology was just introduced last October, so it hasn't been delivered in a lot of places yet. Gladstone has the older version, which is the Vista body cam, and they are happy enough with them that they are in the upgrade process to the Wi-Fi version.
Oh, wow, okay. And in talking to them, what were some of the benefits to having the body camera?
Well, I think we all, the benefits is just that extra point of view. A lot of the activity in a stop, in a police encounter, doesn't occur up front of the car. We capture traffic stops. Sometimes we'll capture DUI investigations and things like that. But as soon as I step out of range of that view of that in-car camera, you lose anything else that's going on in that police activity, where the body cam at least allows you another point of view. And it's not a catch-all, because it's not going to see everything either, but it's going to at least see additional footage than what the in-car camera's focused on.
And do you plan to create like a procedure, like, Chief, are you going to want them to make sure they always turn it on at certain points of time?
We already have a policy in place that manages portable audio-video recorders, and there are certain protocols that are going to be, there are expectations for when an officer is going to activate that. It would include all enforcement and investigative contacts, including stops and field interviews, traffic stops, self-initiated activity in which a member would normally notify the communications center. So if you're getting out on ped check to talk to an individual, if you were going out on the radio, you would normally activate it. And any other contact that becomes adversarial after the initial contact in a situation that would not otherwise require courting. So if you go into Quick Trip to get a Coke and something starts to happen there, then the expectation is that you're going to activate the camera.
Right.
Now, this is not it. The policy says this is what we expect you to do, and that is the case. However, there are going to be dramatically evolving situations where an officer is not going to think to turn that on. If he's away from the vehicle, the light bar hasn't activated it, there's going to be times when they don't think about it. We're seeing that across the country in cities that already have body cams, and some emergent event, the officer doesn't think to do it. I never want an officer to stop to turn on the body cam before they take appropriate action to protect themselves or somebody else.
Right.
But it should be noted also, the policy has places where we are going to turn the camera off, because there are certain things that we see in our line of work that don't need to be captured on a camera potentially for others to see. And if someone requests the camera be turned off, if it's reasonable to do so, we will consider that. So all of that is already written in a policy that exists.
Great, thank you.
Another question on the data that is recorded. Is that going to the cloud, or is that going to a server here in the police department? And if so, how long is that data kept on file?
The data will be housed locally on our current server that we use for the in-car. And then we have purge protocols for it. If the video's not tagged, I believe we're at a 60-day window right now.
Okay.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say, you know, it's something that really is needed in this day and age, so. And it's very uncharacteristic, to be off on the estimate like that. It's just very surprising, and things happen like that. And but the fact of the matter, the bottom line with me is, this is something that in this day and age, with the society the way it is today, this is something that needs to be done, move forward with.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 17.
Agreement for EMS ambulance services, resolution number 17-003.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the fire chief, Gary Fisher.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This resolution, this item strives to accomplish two things. We want to renew the agreement that we currently have with Intermedics for ambulance billing services. And the contract also changes the name or updates the name of the company to the Advanced Data Processing name, which they have taken on just recently. None of the terms in the contract change at all. It's simply a name change and a renewal of what we've been doing for the past 4 years. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Eric? You.
Thanks. I looked in the contract just out of curiosity's sake. How much do we pay for this service? I know that our billing, and we've received a lot more funds from the billing. They've done a good job in collecting maybe what we couldn't have collected on our own. How much are we?
6%.
6%?
I have something. I just noticed one thing I wanted to point out, and I don't know if you need to correct this or not, but in the memo itself, it says that staff recommends approval of the agreement renewal with Advanced Data Processing, a subsidiary of Intermedics Corporation, a Delaware corporation, but I don't think that's actually true. I think
It's actually the other way around.
the other way around, right?
Yes, it is,
Okay,
yes.
so ADP
Very good catch.
now owns Intermedics, so I'm sure the contract's right, but I
Yes.
just want to point out that in the memo was a little backwards. In the last paragraph, even though in the second paragraph, it's correct. So, thank
Yep.
you.
Good catch.
And I don't have any concerns.
This is the same ADP that currently does payroll, right?
I believe it is, yes. It's a fairly large company.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 18.
YMCA capital expenditure, pool HVAC repairs, resolution number 17-004.
Eric?
Thanks, sir. The YMCA has submitted an invoice, actually, the invoices come to us directly, for a capitalized asset expense, as that term is defined in the agreement that we have with the YMCA, for which it requests that we pay the contractor. This relates to the replacement of a damaged blower wheel and bearings for the pool handler at the North Kansas City YMCA. The memo explains the bidding for this particular item. The YMCA is seeking to have this item designated as a capitalized asset expense that will not count as an operating expense for the facility, upon which the YMCA's management fee is calculated. So attached for council consideration is a resolution approving this capital asset expense. The fiscal year 2017 community center budget does contain $100,000 for repairs to the building that might become necessary during the year, so no budget amendment is necessary. So mainly, this just affects how the management fee is calculated.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 19.
Award of contract, concrete services, resolution number 17-007.
Eric?
Thanks, sir. The city has contracted historically with concrete companies for work on our curbs, sidewalks, catch basins. We had a 3-year contract with Musselman and Hall Contractors that expired recently, so we did issue requests for proposals for firms to provide these services, and we received 3 bids. They were based on, the bids as we had put it out in the RFP, were based on unit costs and time and material pricing. We have provided in the materials a bid comparison showing the bidders' unit pricing and time and material rates and applying them all to concrete projects that we've had over the past 18 months. So we attempted to take all the projects that we've had over the 18 months and compare how their bids would have fared if they had worked on those particular projects that we actually did. And as you can see, if you've had a chance to look at the comparison, the pricing of Musselman Hall, our previous contractor, and J.J. Martini was virtually equal looking at the very bottom line. Musselman's pricing was less than 0.2% higher than Martini's. Over the years, Musselman Hall has provided excellent service to us, including immediate responses to emergencies, completing projects promptly. They've helped us when we've had particular issues and provided some creative solutions. So given that, in our view, these 2 bids are virtually the same, all things being equal, we do look at other factors in making a recommendation to you. And based upon that, we do recommend award a contract to Musselman and Hall to continue providing these service to us. So we have a resolution approving a contract with Musselman and Hall before you. And as the way this has been designed, after the first year of the contract, the City Council, we'd bring back to City Council. The City Council could extend that term for up to 2 additional 1-year periods. But we are recommending award of contract to Musselman and Hall.
Move to approve.
I do know that they have done a wonderful job in doing any of the concrete work that we've had to have done.
It's just a question, it's nothing to do with Musselman and the people here, does the city inspect the sidewalks, or they wait for complaints, or how's that work?
So we do have Chris Cooper from Public Works does inspect their work and make sure and improve it.
No, I don't mean the work when they replace. I mean, if you go down the sidewalk and you see a bad side piece.
We do evaluate different sections of sidewalk, note when we've noted them, they're bad, and that becomes the basis of a program that we provide to the contractor.
So Merrill and I walk a lot. We see a lot of them joints with, your trip factor for other people,
Please feel free to point those out to us, and we'll come out and inspect and make a note of it, and if it needs to be repaired or replaced, we'll.
And in general, sidewalks are great around here, but I didn't know how they got reported back.
Yeah, it's what we noticed, but we also welcome input from the public so that we can, go out and take a look. And
Yeah, we've had to do that a couple of times on our walks too. Got a lot of sidewalks, and most of them will be reported by the resident that falls down and skins their knees on them or something, but it should be looked at.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we've got a motion, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 20.
Award of contract, environmental work, 1 North, resolution number 17-006.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. The city, as you know, is presently the owner of the property being developed as 1 North, and a portion of this property is subject to a declaration of restrictive covenant and grant of easement, which we call the restrictive covenant, from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, because it does have certain contamination in the soil on the property. The restrictive covenant precludes the use of the property from any use other than industrial or certain permitted commercial uses. The developer of 1 North would like to use a portion of that property for multifamily residences. And in order for this to occur, the city must work with DNR to modify or terminate the restricted covenant on the property. When we did become aware that this was what the developer would like to do, we discussed that with them, and then we issued an RFP for qualified consultants to perform a Phase 1 environmental assessment of what is called the Leo Eisenberg site, and to enroll the city in the Department of Natural Resources Brownfields Voluntary Cleanup Program, and take whatever other further steps are necessary to modify or terminate that restrictive covenant. We did issue an RFP, and we have indicated the results of that in the memo in your packet. With the assistance of the legal consultant from Bryan Cave, who is an environmental lawyer, and this is a particularly technical RFP, which city staff has limited expertise in. we have determined that the proposal from SCS Engineers was the lowest and most responsive to the RFP. The two lowest that were indicated in the memo in your packet, we felt omitted certain aspects of the RFP, so we did remove them from consideration, but we do think that SCS Engineers can do the work and has provided the best price at $15,250 as their fee, initial fee. But we do note that there will be additional expenses that are related to this project, filing fees of various types to the Department of Natural Resources, fees for environmental sampling, and fees for ongoing longer-term groundwater monitoring, and depending upon the circumstances and requirements that are imposed by the Department of Natural Resources. We think those could be considerable, perhaps in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $50,000. So we do want to make it clear that this is not the only expense related to this particular project that we will have. We would handle those as change orders, and I'll have the city councilor speak to that in a moment. But we are recommending SCS Engineers be engaged to complete the environmental services work necessary to modify or terminate this restrictive covenant. And we did have provided to you on your dais a revised resolution and a revised contract. We were still working with the contractor as of Friday to get the contract finally settled, and it is substantively the same as what you had in your packet for review. Could I ask City Councilor Tom Barzee to just provide some further comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, inasmuch as we were on a real short time frame, the changes that you see before you in the red line versions to the agreement this evening typically would never have been in front of you. I believe it was around Tuesday or Wednesday of last week when they got a draft of a contract. They turned it around, really quickly, but in the meantime, we needed to get this out. And so we sent it out not knowing what comments they may have. The changes they've suggested, again, all in red, there's nothing here that's really significant that concerns me at all, typical that we would have changed if they would have asked, and it would just never have been before you. Secondly, in the resolution, as Mr. Berlin just indicated, we recognize that there absolutely will be some additional fees, but they're not. They are controlled by time and material, if you will, by the terms of the agreement itself. But we feel like the only way we can keep this moving, because time really is of the essence to get this done. We don't have a city council meeting, at least not a regularly scheduled city council meeting, until 3 weeks from tonight. And so, like we've done on several other contracts, the change to the proposed resolution that is pending before you this evening, it's at the top of the second page, section 3, that's in red. It gives, like we've done before, it gives the mayor, when it comes to him, in this instance, up to $35,000 to approve change orders on the fly, so we don't have to come back. Now, of course, anything above that, he'll be coming back, but it would be his judgment on whether or not we should go ahead and proceed with something. So if you have any question, and this would have been true probably regardless of which contractor would have been selected, we would have felt like we need to come back, go to the mayor to get some authority to keep the process moving. And so if there's any questions you may have, I'll be glad to try to answer them, or I'm sure Mr. Berlin will.
So basically what we're trying to do is get an assessment of that area where the developer wants to put the multifamily housing. And then what we need to do, and it says in here in the memo that a lot of the soil can be capped with streets, sidewalks to limit the exposure. And so this is just going to be basically a consultant telling us what we need to do to make sure that it's up to snuff, basically? Is that the crux of?
To work with DNR, to have DNR ultimately tell us. So we're hoping that it could be a relatively simple matter, but ultimately it will be up to DNR to tell us. By enrolling us in this Brownfields voluntary cleanup program, our consultant would supply the necessary information to DNR to get direction from them.
Okay.
I have a question about the bids. the one you guys are recommending is SCS engineers. But after that, the two next ones are double the cost of SCS. And if you said this, I must have missed this, but we've worked with Olson Associates before and been, I think, happy with their work. So I'm curious as to what's driving the cost of those next two to be so much higher than the one you chose.
Well, we did ask the attorney with Brian Cave, and Brian Cave, of course, is our counselor that we work with on the special economic development, including the One North project. And so one thing that he tried to do for us was say, okay, if we removed what we provided to you in the memo reflects the actual number that they provided in their proposals. But he tried to go in and actually do an apples-to-apples comparison, removing certain fees that, perhaps might not be included in another because they were assuming them later on. So if you look at that, Olson's bid comes down closer to around $24,000 in an apples-to-apples comparison of SCS. But they still came out a bit higher than SCS did. So the way that these were submitted to us, it was a little tricky in terms of trying to make sure we were doing an apples-to-apples comparison. But by supplying them to the attorney from Brian Cave, we feel we have, and we feel that we've still come up with the lowest and best. Olson's number might be considered a little bit lower if you try to compare it exactly the same to SCS.
Okay. Have we worked with SCS before?
No, this would be a new vendor for us.
Is Brian Cave familiar with them and their work? And
They are, and we
well-known?
did review their qualifications. We feel that they are well qualified. I will tell you, Brian Cave, when we did an initial analysis with Terracon, which helped to develop the scope that we put out here. Brian Cave works quite a bit with Terracon, and they actually brought us a proposal from Terracon, this is now a couple of months ago, that I felt was too high one to simply bring to council without going out on a competitive basis. So we did, and if Brian Cave were picking it for us, they'd probably pick Terracon, but I think that when we go out on a competitive basis, SCS came out ahead, and we do feel they're qualified for the work.
Okay, so I'm comfortable with your judgment. I guess the only thing I would ask is that when those change orders come in and we have additional costs, as I assume we will at some point, if you could provide us with sort of this is the basis, this is what we paid so far, and this is the change order, so we can kind of have an accumulative
Sure.
total, so we know at the end of this what we ended up spending.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Got a motion? Oh, Mayor.
Yeah, I noticed in the memo, it states that the city believes that DNR will, or is likely to approve, to remove these restrictive covenants. Have we, if we do this, have we contacted MDNR and got their opinion that if we do this, there is a very good possibility that they'll remove these covenants, or maybe there's possibly a little less of a scope we could do that would satisfy MDNR? Has anybody contacted them about this?
The scope that we put out was based upon the initial work that Terracon did. And they are very familiar with DNR, and we are basing the judgment that was stated in the memo based upon what Terracon told us, that because of their experience with DNR, they believe that they will do it once they've been convinced with the sampling and testing that's necessary. We are very hopeful of a satisfactory result. We're not guaranteed of one.
So basically, Terracon believes that
That's
this will
right.
work.
That's what they told us.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Move to approve.
Got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 21.
Allocation of Harris Charitable Fund contributions.
Yes, sir. The city's ground lease with Harris Casino provides that Harris will make a charitable contribution to qualified charitable organizations to provide services or other benefits to residents of the city. And that contribution is the greater of 1% of Harris' net operating income for the last fiscal year, $100,000, in this case, $100,000 for the last year. At its special meeting on January 11th, just last week, City Council met, reviewed the applications, and determined allocations for the organizations that applied, and those are now before you for your formal approval. So staff would request a motion to approve the list of organizations and amounts for the 2017 Harris charitable contribution.
Move to approve if there's
Second.
questions.
I might say that we requested 230-some thousand from all the people, and we only had 100,000, so some of them didn't get what they wanted, but we did the best we could. Okay, we got a motion and a second?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I motion Bill second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 22.
Missouri Municipal League request for assignment of track phone settlement.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. The Missouri Municipal League was instrumental in obtaining a settlement in a class action suit against TracFone for its failure to pay certain fees that were due to municipalities around the state. Once that proposed settlement receives court approval, the city of North Kansas City is expected to receive about $6,397 as its share of the settlement. The league is requesting that the entities that did receive or expect to receive a settlement amount assign or contribute 5% or more of the amount that they will receive from the settlement, which would be deposited in the MML Advocacy Fund to help cover the costs of the league's lobbying and advocacy efforts. 5% of the city's estimated share of the class action settlement would be $319.88, and council would be requested to make a motion accordingly. I do sit on the MML board, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd agree.
We got a motion?
Making a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 23.
Approving accounts due and payable by the city through January 13th, 2017. Bill number 7169, ordinance number 8966.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through January 13th, 2017.
I move that bill number 7169 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 8966.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Kistler?
Yes.
Councilmember Lodahl?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through January 13th, 2017.
Okay, Mr. Eric.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to call on the Community Development Director, Sarah Copeland.
Good evening. Thought you all might be missing my regular master plan update that we haven't had for about 6 months now, so asked Eric. We had our master plan printed and received those right before Christmas, and I forgot to bring them last time, but put one at each of your places. I think we got about 100 of these that we'll be distributing to some of the people who contributed and to you all and to the Planning Commission. And if there's anybody who would like one, we are happy to give a few of these away. We're very pleased with how they turned out. And of course, we have a number of projects going on to start implementation of the plan. And want to thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah. I'd like to call on the Finance Director or Finance Manager, Shirley Land, regarding the quarterly city financial report.
Is this on? Yes. Good evening. As you can see, the first quarter's report in front of you for fiscal 2017. There's nothing majorly of note. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to go over any questions that you might have. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you.
Too good of a job, Shirley.
I would just like to note that we are, along with other Northland municipalities, holding breakfast this Friday with our state legislators to discuss what's going on in the legislature and make some suggestions to them for things to consider as they go about their duties during this legislative session. That's Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Gladstone Community Center. And as of right now, Mayor Stilo and Council Members Pearman, Stewart, and Clevenger have indicated they'll be attending. If any of you, others of you decide that you'd like to come, please let us know. But otherwise, look forward to seeing you at that breakfast. And then lastly, we just note that the upcoming city items of note report is also in your packet if you have any questions about that. That concludes staff comments.
I do have a question about the items of note.
Yes, ma'am.
On the second page, so you list out all the calendar, which is excellent. And then I just want to know, on the second page, the Parks and Recreation events are all listed in red. Does that mean something?
No, it was just a
Okay.
way of distinguishing them from the others.
Okay, that's my only question.
Well, you got anything?
I do have a couple things. I wanted to say thank you to Karen Todd and Brian Spencer and Kevin Case for their service as we reviewed some of those and moved somebody to different positions. And also, I thought lots of items on today's agenda, including the 6 o'clock work session, we're very excited about and pleased that we're moving forward on a variety of projects around the city. Several departments were impacted, so I'm excited to see that forward momentum. So thank you.
Mr. Bill?
It was exciting to see the coats and scarves and whatnots on the fences. I thought that was a great idea. And the little card that they put on there about North Kansas City showing warmth is a good thing too. And we got a lot of TV publicity over that. It was on several channels. So congratulations to all that were involved in getting that thing done.
Just a couple of things. First of all, I want to commend Matt Brantner. I know he's not here anymore. He left, but did a great job with these ordinances and looking at our liquor ordinances. I think he was a really good hire. I can't remember whose recommendation it was, but it was a good one because he's done a great job so far. So I think that was well worth the money. Just ditto on Councilmember Pearman's comments about Karen Todd and Kevin Case and Brian. You know, Karen and Kevin have been really active in our community, and they've done a great job for us. So definitely a heartfelt thank you to them. And good job on the scarf idea, too. That's really unique. So that's all I got.
Yeah, you didn't just say ditto, but that scarf idea and hat, and whatever on that fence, it really looked, I had to date myself, cool, I don't know, but it looks nice, and it was a great idea. I've seen a homeless lady shopping along the fence today. Yeah, and, you know, kudos to the street crews again. You know, if you didn't leave Northtown, you wouldn't think there was a problem anywhere. You know, there's a lot of people off the ditch and everything, and not only for this ice thing, which didn't materialize as bad as they said, and that's good, but the snow before that actually affected the street more. They had them all clear, so, you know, they do a good job every time it happens, so, but we don't want to take for granted.
Well, by the time you get down to me, I just kind of repeat what everybody else is saying. But I do want to express appreciation to Karen Todd, Byron Spencer, and Kevin Case for their work. And also, I think it was a super good idea to have this deal with the scarves and clothing items down at Mackin Park. I guess the only other additional thing I might mention is next year will be the Chiefs' year.
I want to thank you, Steve, for bringing your new play toy. That was really neat. I think there'll be a lot of people sorry that we got that. That's what. Thank you.
There's nothing more that I can add that's not already been said, so I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you to Kelly and the Business Council for the scarves and hats. I would like to have some more notification for next year, because I have lots and lots of friends who have scarves and hats that they can definitely give to that. Chief Beamer, I'm excited for your cameras, and maybe we'll see you on Cops someday.
Bad boys.
That's all, thank you.
Me, huh? Move to adjourn.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.